30 past the hour, also breaking this morning, North Korea has fired an unidentified ballistic missile through Japanese airspace. South Korean officials tell NBC News that North Korea fired the missile from near the capital of Pyongyang just before 6 a.m. local time this morning. They say that the missile flew for just under 1,700 miles. Speaking after the launch, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe called the act a significant threat, saying that he had spoken with President Trump by phone. Abe said that he and Trump agreed to increase pressure on North Korea after this latest launch. Joining us now from Washington, member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, and here on set, columnist for the Daily Beast and author of the book Nuclear Showdown: North Korea Takes on the World, Gordon Chang.
It's great to have you guys with us. So before we start, let's just put this all in context. Because this launch came just 1 week after President Trump and other administration officials said that North Korea was, and I'm quoting them here, showing respect towards the United States.
Kim Jong-un, I respect the fact that I believe he is starting to respect us. I respect that fact very much. Respect that fact. And maybe, probably not, but maybe something positive can come about.
I think it is worth noting that we have had no missile launches or provocative acts on the part of North Korea since the unanimous adoption of the UN Security Council resolution. And I want to take note of that. I want to acknowledge it. I am pleased to see that the regime in Pyongyang has certainly demonstrated some level of restraint that we've not seen in the past. We hope that this is the beginning of this signal that we've been looking for, that they are ready to restrain their level of tensions, they're ready to restrain their provocative acts.
That is what you call setting yourself up for failure. And I've got to say, Chris Murphy, I'm really shocked at just how naive those two statements were. I was shocked at the time that they set themselves up for failure, because this is a regime that has been making fools of American presidents since 1994.
Yeah, this is an administration that's looking for good news that doesn't exist. And the fact of the matter is that you just showed a clip of a president who has zero diplomatic experience, who hired a Secretary of State who has zero diplomatic experience, who hired a Deputy Secretary of State who has no diplomatic experience. This is about as complicated a dance as you get, trying to show toughness, trying to make it clear to the North Koreans that if they do attack the United States or our allies, there will be a disproportionate response that will wipe out the regime and put together a serious diplomatic effort that could unwind this crisis without military hostilities. The Trump administration is really excited about the first part, the tough talk, but they don't have anybody in place at the State Department or the White House who can chart that second path, which is a set of economic and political sanctions with China as the lead that ultimately gets them to change their disposition. They simply just don't have the people in place right now to do that second part, and I think the North Koreans recognize that.
So Gordon, the significance of this is it's not just that Donald Trump and Rex Tillerson were made to look foolish by their statements. They set themselves up for failure, and they set the United States up to look weak and incompetent on a matter, on really one of the top foreign policy issues facing us right now, if not the. They should have known this was coming.
They should have known this was coming, because every time this year the North Koreans do something provocative. Now is the time of the Ulchi Freedom Guardian exercises between Japan and South Korea. Like clockwork, the North Koreans will do something belligerent during these exercises. Tillerson and Trump said these things during the exercises. They had to know this was coming. So this is a failure of staff work at the State Department and the White House. And indeed, as you say, it made the United States look ignorant. It made the United States look naive and a little bit behind the ball.
So, Senator Murphy, given that they should have known, according to Gordon Chang, what does that say about our intelligence capabilities and the hollowing out of the State Department?
Well, our intelligence capabilities in North Korea have always been miserable, and that's evidenced by the fact that we just didn't understand how far they were in terms of their progress towards a nuclear weapon that they could put on a ballistic missile. But, you know, if you do believe that this guy is truly unhinged, then you have to have some strategy, maybe not an official strategy, but at least a below-the-radar screen strategy of regime change. And the State Department earlier this year rejected a $70 billion fund that was supposed to be transferred to them by the Department of Defense that would help them with propaganda, with countering propaganda all around the globe, including on the Korean Peninsula. If you ultimately want a different regime in North Korea, you've got to start feeding in objective information to the North Korean people about what their government is doing to them. And a $70 million account that could have been used for that was turned away by Rex Tillerson. Right. So there's just no capability inside that agency today to do the hard long-term work of trying to get a different regime in North Korea.
Mark. Gordon, there's obviously massive sanctions already on North Korea. You're writing today about the prospect of more sanctions. What's left to do, and could anything new be put on them if China doesn't want to participate?
Yeah, there are a couple things. So, for instance, the most recent set of UN sanctions that Secretary Tillerson referenced to in that tape, August 5, those only cut off 1/3 of North Korea's legal export income. Also, North Korea is getting a lot of illegal income from Iran, for instance, $2 to $3 billion a year. And the one thing that we really haven't gone very far down the road is sanctions on China for supporting North Korea's ballistic missile program, its nuclear weapons program, but first of all, money laundering for the North Koreans. And it's not just the small fry bank that we sanctioned at the end of June. It's the largest Chinese institutions, including probably Bank of China, which the UN cited last year, and also the world's largest financial institution, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, also looks to be guilty of money laundering. Once we go after them, we can convince Beijing that they've got to help us, because we could throw the Chinese economy into turmoil if we wanted to. The Chinese know it, but Trump is not willing to threaten that step. Once we take that step, though, I believe Beijing starts moving in the right direction really quickly, because they know the consequences that could occur.
Senator, we were talking a couple weeks ago about the fact that North Korea, we need to stop calling North Korea North Korea. I mean, it's China's 51st state. They keep them afloat. 85% of imports go to North Korea. The exports, it's the same thing. 85% of North Korea's exports go to China. They're keeping them afloat. And so I guess the question is, are we going to sit by over the next year, 2, 3, 4 years and allow China to let North Korea get a nuclear weapon that could kill everybody in Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco? Are we going to just sit by and let that happen?
So I think it's right that we have the ability to send China's economy into turmoil. But of course, if you send China's economy into turmoil, you send the United States economy into turmoil. We are two economies that are inextricably linked today. Right. But I think after watching the test of just the last 24 hours, in which brazenly the North Koreans have decided to send a missile or a series of missiles over Japan's territory, a country that has a treaty alliance with the United States, we've got to start thinking about those hard, difficult steps. If you impose secondary sanctions on China, if you impose tough sanctions on China, it will come back and hurt the U.S. economy. Right. But I don't think that Pyongyang is showing any signs that would require us to show that kind of restraint today.
So, Senator, I guess what I want to know is what's the mindset on the Hill? What's the mindset in the foreign policy community in Washington, D.C. right now? Is it that the North Koreans are going to get a nuclear weapon capable of wiping out the West Coast and we just have to go with it? Or is the attitude that we're going to do whatever we can do to stop this from happening? And that's not a loaded question. This is one of those questions. There is not a correct answer. They're all bad. What's the
we
mindset?
certainly haven't. Yeah, no, we certainly do not accept the inevitability of that, and so we are willing and prepared on the Foreign Relations Committee to pass new sanctions on North Korea, perhaps new sanctions on China, in order to ramp up the pressure. But I think there is worry on both sides of the aisle that there simply aren't the people in place in this administration to work this complicated dance of ratcheting up the pressure on North Korea. When Jared Kushner is in charge of China policy, I don't think anybody, Republicans or Democrats in the Senate, have confidence that they can figure out how to chart this course. So we can give them those tools. They've got to have the personnel.
Isn't he doing Middle East peace right now?
Yeah, we'll have to check Jared's
is he doing
list.
Middle East peace? Is he doing China too?
Wow. That's amazing.
Well, okay, hold on.
Senator
let me write
Chris
that
Murphy.
Down. Hold on.
He's not
Doing
fighting.
China too.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Thanks, guys.
For being on the show. Gordon Chang, thank you as
Gordon.
well.
Does he read books on Chinese
Oh, my
history?
God. Nope. History does not matter.